At this time, we'll call the Garden Grove Housing Authority meeting to order. Would the Secretary please call the roll?
Commissioner Beckles?
Here.
Commissioner Broadwater?
Here.
Commissioner Jones?
Here.
Commissioner Wynn? Commissioner O'Connor?
Here.
Vice Chair Dalton?
Here.
Chair Beard?
Here. Okay, the first item is oral communication. Do we have any for the Housing Authority? Seeing none, we'll move to item 2, the consent items. Does anyone care to pull an item?
Move it. Second.
Call for the vote.
Commissioner Beckles, did you need to vote no?
I did. It didn't go through?
Motion received 5 yes votes with Commissioner Beckles voting no.
Okay, item number 3 is
Public hearing.
have staff report.
Yeah, we have a public hearing on the Housing Authority 2012 Annual Plan, and Danny Hoon is here to give a staff report on this item.
Good evening, Chairman and Commissioners. The item before you tonight is the fiscal year 2012 annual plan. The Housing Authority is required to submit this plan to HUD prior to April 17th. The Garden Grove Housing Authority received a score of 99 out of 100 points for the fiscal year 2011, which qualifies the authority as a high-performing agency. As a high-performing agency, the authority is only required to complete an abbreviated format of the annual plan. A resident advisory board comprised of 6 tenant participants of the Housing Choice Voucher Program has reviewed the plan, and their comments are attached. The public hearing has been properly noticed on January 5th and the 12th. It is recommended that the Housing Authority Commission conduct the public hearing and adopt the 2012 annual plan. This concludes my report, and I'm available to answer any questions.
Any questions of staff? Seeing none, we'll open the public hearing. Those who wish to speak on this matter? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. Bring it back to the authority. Is there a motion?
Move the issue.
Is there a second?
Second.
Call for the vote.
Motion received 6 yes votes.
Okay. Items for consideration. Anything from the members? Or anything else related to any? Okay. So I guess we can move to adjournment. Is there a motion? So moved. Second?
I second it.
Okay, call for the vote.
See you later.
Now, James, you do not have the situation,
Oh, he doesn't.
because you're actually not as tall as Tom. No, you're fine there. But here's our problem.
You either have to be tall or willing to climb on chairs.
Get defined. Look at that. What's Tom's function that I can't fulfill? Well, he's slightly taller than any one of us. But,
But not as tall as Keith Jones.
yeah, Keith was able to do this without any assistance.
I know. Big shoes. Big feet. Someday they'll figure it out. You like Keith.
There's like an automatic something there.
That was too easy.
It's like a master of ceremony.
Okay, at this time, I'd like to call a Garden Grove City Council meeting to order. Madam Clerk, would you please call roll?
Councilmember Beard?
Here.
Councilmember Broadwater?
Here.
Councilmember Jones?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Wynn? Mayor Dalton?
Here. We'll have the invocation by Susan Emery, and I'll lead the Pledge of Allegiance.
Lord, we are meeting today to conduct matters of business, guide our hearts and our minds in the spirit of fairness, right thought, and speech. Impart your supreme wisdom upon our activities so that our affairs may reach a successful conclusion. Thank you for being our source of guidance today. Amen.
Amen. Okay, please join me in pledging allegiance to the greatest flag of the greatest country in the world. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, do we have a presentation?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'd like Joe Serrano to come forward on behalf of the Orange County LAFCO to make a presentation.
Good evening, Council. It's a pleasure to be here today. My name is Joe Serrano from Orange County LAFCO. The reason why I'm here is to first remind you what the heck LAFCO is, and second, to update you with the shared services program we developed. I also like to introduce Benjamin Legbett. He's one of our policy analysts. So you have pretty much half of the LAFCO staff. We're a fairly small agency. We're typically known as a boundary agency. We can annex areas into cities or special districts. We can consolidate. But one of our most responsible aspects of LAFCO is to analyze the delivery of services to our residents in Orange County, and we do that through our municipal service reviews. State law requires us to conduct these reports every 5 years, and the next round is due in 2013. So we're starting to work on that. But instead of just writing a report, we created 2 web-based programs to fulfill our state requirements and add more value for our funding agencies. And one of the programs is known as the Shared Services Program. I like to call it the eHarmony for local agencies, because we match cities and special districts based on their services. For example, the city of Garden Grove recently shared their city clerk. Well, now we are thinking regionally, how can we work together, collaborate, save money, and increase our revenues? Well, we're doing that by sharing services, whether services, staff, or working together on projects. We also created a capital improvement plan map. It schedules out all the capital improvement plan projects throughout the whole county. So if you're going to update your streets or improve some pipeline and your neighboring city is doing the same project just a couple of months before you, why not work together, increase your purchasing power, and decrease your costs? So that's what we're trying to do with LAFCO. We're trying to be more proactive, help our cities and special districts. And I just wanted to update you on that program and answer any of your questions you might have about LAFCO or the MSR process.
Any questions for?
What is your position with LAFCO?
I'm also a policy analyst.
Okay, and who's the person that runs it?
That would be Joyce Crossway. She's our executive officer.
And how long has she been doing that?
She's been doing it for quite some time, over, I would say, over 10 years, yeah. And we have 11 council board. We have 3 board supervisors. We have 2 city members, 2 district members, and alternates for each one.
Who had her job when we took over the sanitation district?
I don't remember.
Yeah, she did it very well.
Was it Dana Smith?
Oh, it was.
Dana Smith, yeah. She's now with the city of Newport Beach.
Oh, is she?
But she used to be our former executive officer.
Yeah, she did very well. We won by 1 vote.
Ah.
That's winning.
That is right.
Yes.
Well, it's a
So you
pleasure
only
to be
have
here.
four staff members?
Yeah, we have our executive officer, Joyce Crossway, our assistant executive officer, Carolyn Emery, Ben and myself, and we have a city clerk, or office clerk.
Any other? Well, thank you very much for your presentation.
Yeah,
We
thank you.
appreciate it. Okay, at this time, we'll open oral communications for the council, the successor agency, and the sanitary district. Are there any cards? Okay, I have no cards, so there will be no oral communications. At this time, I'll close oral communications. We'll recess the council and go to the successor agency.
Okay. Welcome to the March 27th meeting of the Successor Agency. Do you want to call roll?
Member Broadwater?
Here.
Member Dalton?
Here.
Member Wynn? Vice Chair Beard?
Here.
Chair Jones?
Here.
You doing the sand district?
Okay, consent items, we just have the minutes from February 28th. Do I have a motion?
Move it.
Second.
Call to vote. We have
Receive 4 yes votes.
sorry. We have no public hearings. We have no items for consideration. Any matters from agency members? That's it. We will adjourn to April 10th.
Okay, at this time, we'll open up the Garden Grove Sanitary District Board of Directors. And show all members here, please. We'll go to oral communications. Oh, actually, we've done that, haven't we?
we did that,
Yes. Consent items. We got one item, the minutes. Somebody give us a
Move
motion
the
on it?
minutes.
Second.
Call for the vote.
Member Broadwater. Motion received 4 yes votes.
Items for consideration.
Mr. President, you have an item for award of contract for construction project at Lamson Avenue and one at Twin Tree, and Bill Murray is here to give a staff report on this item.
Thank you, Mr. Patel. Mr. President and members of the board, tonight the board is being asked to award a contract to Paulus Engineering for the construction of almost 3,500 feet of sewer line in Lamson Avenue on the east side of the city by Hastor. You have a project map attached to your report for reference. The Lamson line begins at Volkwood, heads east across Astor, and then heads north at a private drive between the City Pillars apartment complex and the Glen Hable Mobile Home Park, where it hits Alonzo and continues north to Twin Tree Circle. The construction of the sewer line will relieve capacity deficiencies in the area as required by the Regional Water Quality Control Board. Staff received 14 qualified bids on February 21st, with Paulus Engineering being the lowest bid, just over $975,000. Should the board decide to award the construction contract tonight, Paulus can begin work in May and will be complete by September. This work does not use any general funds, and this concludes staff's report.
Let me ask you a question. Is Paulus an experienced engineering firm?
Yes, they've done a few projects for us already.
Any discussion, gentlemen? Entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Call for the vote.
Motion received 4 yes votes.
Any matters from board members? We will adjourn until the regular meeting of April 24th, 2012.
Okay, we'll reconvene the council and go to consent items.
Mr. Mayor, it's recommended that items 4A through 4H be acted on simultaneously unless a separate discussion or action is requested by a member.
Move the balance.
Second.
A motion and a second, call for the vote.
Motion received 4 yes votes.
Items for consideration.
7A is an award of contract for traffic signal installation and street rehabilitation projects. And Bill Murray is here to give a staff report on this item.
Thank you, Mr. Patel. Mr. Mayor and members of the council, tonight the council is being asked to award a contract to California Professional Engineering to install 2 new traffic signals and modify 2 existing signals. The new signals will be installed at Hastor Street and Allard Avenue, and the other one at Westminster Avenue and at the Dawson-Hope intersection. The modifications will be at the Westminster and Bowen signal, which is already existing, and the Harbor and Chapman Avenue signal. And the Westminster and Bowen project will install left turn phasing, which is just to include a left turn arrow. And the Harbor and Chapman line will reinstall conduits and cables. Staff received 3 qualified bids on March 9th, with California Professional Engineering being the lowest bid, with a bid of almost $485,000. And should the council decide to award the construction contract tonight, the contractor will begin work in late April and be complete in August. This work does not use any general funds, and this concludes staff's report.
Thank you. Any questions for staff? Okay, hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Yeah, move the issue.
Second.
Motion and second, call for the vote.
Mr. Mayor and Mr. Broadwater. Motion received 4 yes votes.
Okay, 7B.
Mr. Mayor, 7B is an award of contract to R.J. Noble Company for street rehabilitation and construction projects, and Bill Murray is here to give a staff report on this item.
Thank you again, Mr. Patel, Mr. Mayor, and members of the council. Tonight, council is being asked to award a contract to R.J. Noble for major street rehabilitation at 4 locations. Those locations are Westminster Avenue from Bouchard to Brookhurst, and on Brookhurst Street from Hazard to Westminster, and on Chapman from 9th to West, and on Trask from Harbor to the SR-22 eastbound on-ramp. All of these streets are in bad shape and require significantly work, including the replacement of the road base. This is more work than we normally do, and it will really impact traffic significantly in the work areas. However, it needs to be done. Staff received 4 qualified bids on March 20th, with R.J. Noble being the lowest with a bid of almost $2.8 million. Should the council decide to award the construction contract tonight, the contractor will begin work in April and be completed in late July. This concludes staff's report.
Thank you. Any other questions for staff?
Where'd the money come from?
It is not from the general fund. It's usually gas tax and Measure M.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion if there's no other questions.
Move approval.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Call for the vote.
Motion received, 4 yes votes.
7C.
Mr. Mayor, 7C is a required additional employee contributions disclosure statement regarding a 2-year additional service credit proposed for the management staff, and John Clark is here to give a staff report on this item.
Thank you, Mr. Fertal, Mr. Mayor, and members of the City Council. For those of you who were with us in 2010, you probably you'll probably remember the process that we went through to provide the additional retirement service credit to employees who choose to retire early. We're going through the same process again, but we're doing this sort of in a unit-by-unit basis, consistent with our approach. And management employees, we're very supportive of this effort in terms of joining the furlough, deferring their 2% raise, and one of the things that we wish to provide to them in exchange for that, and also to achieve cost savings, is the 2-year early retirement service credit. And the first step of which is PERS has a very specific financial disclosure requirement and a very specific way to calculate it, and that is what is before you today. Again, we are required to calculate this as if every eligible person goes, but it'll obviously be a subset of that. Assuming that council approves the measure before you today, then we would return at the next meeting or the meeting after that with a resolution actually opening the window period for basically management employees. And that concludes staff report. I can answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions for staff? Okay, any questions for any of the public in attendance on this matter? Okay, seeing none, we'll go ahead and proceed.
Move it.
Have a motion
Second.
and a second. Call for the vote. Okay,
Mr. Fowler, your button's not working well tonight. Motion received, 4 yes votes.
okay, 8A, Mr. Fertel, I'm going to recuse myself.
Yes.
I live in the area.
Okay, 8A amendments to A16011 and A16111 pertaining to mixed-use regulations and development standards.
Yeah, this is an ordinance for second reading, and that's ordinance number 2814, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Garden Grove approving amendment number A160-11 and amendment number A161-11 to implement the Garden Grove General Plan by amending Title IX of the Garden Grove Municipal Code to establish new mixed-use zones and corresponding new mixed-use regulations and development standards, and to make corresponding changes to the zoning map and existing definitions and sign standards.
Any questions or comments?
None. Move approval.
Second.
Call to vote.
Motion received, 3 yes votes.
Okay, we finished that, so is our 8A1, that's all done?
Correct.
Okay, so we just go to matters. Mr. Broadwater.
Well, I'd like to talk a little bit about a citizen of the city of Garden Grove who passed away. He was my brother, Philip Leland Broadwater. He lived in this city for over 40 years and was in business in this city over 40 years. He was a good guy, a good man, and I sure hate to see him go. He was really a very smart fellow in a lot of ways. He right after getting out of the Navy, well, 2 years, I'd say, getting out of the Navy, he got accepted to the University of the Philippines to go to school there, but he didn't have a way to get there. And so he, in those days, everybody had to be in the reserve program for 3 or 4 years after he got out of the service. And so he went down and he told them where he was going to go, and so they gave him orders to be in the reserve program in Manila. And it was just orders. I don't think he had to really go there. I mean, attend their meetings or anything. But he took those orders and he put on his sailor suit, which he hadn't worn in a couple of years, and he went out to the Air Force Base, and he literally took those orders and got his way all the way to the Philippines, one plane after another. The suit hardly fitted him or anything. So, and then he actually taught at Santa Thomas, a university in the Philippines. We had a good time growing up together. He was 3 years older than me, and we had a younger brother, Lyle, who has already passed away. And the three of us went to school together, went to Bell High School for junior high school, and then we went to Southgate High School when we graduated. He was a guy that loved to talk politics. He's one of the few guys that I know that could really change my thinking on something. I'm going to miss him, and we're going to bury him tomorrow morning out at Riverside. So anyway, I'd like you to close the meeting in his name, if you would, please.
Okay. Mr. Jones.
Yeah, just condolences to Bruce and the family on the passing of his brother.
Same condolences to you. I just have a couple items. One is I've been invited along with the president of the Sister City Association to go to South Korea, and I've accepted at my own cost and expense. So that trip is planned for April 12th or 13th and coming back the 20th. So I just want to let you know I will be going to Anyang. I'm looking forward to it. It coincides with the Sister City, the students going over there as well. So I look forward to it. I hope to represent the city well. But again, I was invited, and so I accepted that along with the president. And so I'm very much looking forward to it and seeing the sites and visiting our sister city. Another item is recently I had the opportunity to visit Channel 3 behind the scenes. And what a remarkable experience. It's an award-winning production team with Gus and all, but it was my first experience behind the scenes. It was very impressive. Talk about teamwork. Talk about skill under pressure. And I was more nervous, I think, than they were watching the production being done for Channel 3 News This Week in Garden Grove. Very fun group, interesting group, mostly volunteers. And so I was very impressed, and I enjoyed seeing it. And so I just like to make mention of that because we see it on TV and how well they do, but to see them behind the scenes is a whole different light, and it's very impressive. And I commend them for all the good work that they do on Channel 3. And another thing is we had some projects come up tonight. I was wondering about the Lamson project. I know that's in the works, Lamson improvements on the west side of Garden Grove. I know 22 freeway, all those improvements, once those are done, I hope to think that the Lamson improvements are. Neighbors keep asking me, are those coming along? I say, yes, they're coming along. So unless I hear otherwise from staff, I can assume it's moving forward, and this year it should be started. This is the year. Good to hear. And on a sad note for myself, just this last Sunday, there was a friend of our family, Lois Sanchez, long-term Garden Grove resident, lives in the west side of Garden Grove. She passed away. She'll be sorely missed. A long-term Garden Grove resident, good friend, good mom, and I'd like to ask that the mayor add her name to adjourning the meeting in her memory.
Okay, I'd like to offer my personal condolences to both the Broadwater family and the Sanchez family, and we will adjourn the meetings in honor of Leland Broadwater and Lois Sanchez. And we'll adjourn until the next city council meeting, which will be April 10th, 5:30 p.m. at the Garden Grove Community Meeting Center here. Thank you.